Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome home again to our brand new project here in New York City, Brooklyn to be specific, and an area known as Dumbo, down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass. This is the building we're remodeling into 3 apartments. Today we're going to take a close look at the beginning of demolition, talk with an architectural historian, and meet some real characters here in Brooklyn. Stick around. It's good to have you home again. You're looking at the Sweeney Building, circa 1900. Originally a metal plating and fabricating building. Now it's been converted into luxurious loft condominiums. Let's go inside and meet with Chris Vila, my son, who's going to give us a little tour. Chris, this would be your dream apartment, right?
This has great, great possibilities.
Unbelievable views of the Brooklyn Bridge and the skyline behind it.
Yeah.
And all the boat traffic on the East River.
Yeah, you could sit here for hours.
You couldn't do any work here.
No.
This is not your typical artist's loft, though.
No.
It's luxury.
This is very luxury.
Yeah.
These are very expensive lofts, and you're not going to find a lot of artists moving into this building.
But there is a real market for them, and
Absolutely.
I suppose there's probably a 20% difference between the cost of real estate in Manhattan.
Right, it's slightly off here. I mean, it's a little bit more affordable.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are we looking at? How many square feet in a loft like
this? This space is 2,400 square feet, roughly.
How many rooms?
You've got 2 bedrooms and a third, which could be used as a child's bedroom or a den.
And then this big open
and
space.
And then this enormous open living area,
okay.
which leads into the kitchen.
I love what they've done to the kitchens. The open plan, the lights, the industrial look.
Yeah, it's got a very industrial feeling to it. They've had a lot of these things designed especially for this building. All the cabinetry was done here in Brooklyn.
And the standards against the wall are stainless steel, right?
All stainless steel brackets, exactly. And then you've got this great marble countertop.
Right. These are terrific. Let's take a look at the master.
Okay.
The master suite. Well, the scale of the apartment is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's one of the real benefits of living in a loft like this.
Wow.
The immense scale.
How would you like to wake up every morning to this, huh?
Really impressive.
And they have used pretty heavy-duty windows because you do want to control the amount of noise that you get from the traffic.
It really dampens out the noise from the bridge, which is so close.
Yeah. But everything is overscaled. The ceiling heights are what, about 12?
12, easily 12 feet high.
So you've got a self-contained master here, big walk-in. Very big walk-in closet.
2 sides.
Nicely detailed. And then let's check out the bathroom. This is the master bath, but there's what, another 2 bathrooms in this?
There's 2 other bathrooms.
Yeah.
This is the master.
Oh, wow. This is terrific.
Yeah.
What's this floor?
This is all imported from Carrera. The developers had this made specially for
It's
them.
like a basket weave, yeah.
Exactly.
But it is marble.
It's all marble. It all came from the same source. All the marble in the tub
And they've gone to a lot of trouble to kind of recreate the feeling of early 20th century plumbing.
It's also kind of industrial. It's all exposed.
Nickel
It's in fitting with the rest of the building and with the neighborhood.
Well, let's take a look for David and Jed Walentis up on the Tar Beach, as it's called.
Let's go.
Now, they call it the Tar Beach because it's a whole collection of roof decks up there right on the roofing, right?
It's sort of a New York term for rooftop beaches.
Might be warm up there. And they've put in spiral staircases.
Each penthouse here has its own private entrance to its own private deck.
Very nice. Hey guys.
Hey.
Hi,
how are you?
Dad.
Hello, Bob.
How you doing?
Good to see you. Welcome.
Hi, Jack.
Good to see you. How are you? How are you?
David, let me ask you a question first, and let's get out of here. I always hate walking on these things before they put the deck on. How did you come up with the idea of creating a condominium roof deck for the use of the whole building here, right?
Well, we had these spectacular views, as you can see.
Yeah.
We had this big roof deck, and people love to be on the roof in the city.
Yeah,
so
especially this time of year, right?
we created Tar Beach. 4 of the units are duplexes, which are tied to the apartment below and come up. And then we built 6 private cabanas that we can sell to anyone in the building. So if you buy a building or an apartment on a lower floor in the back without a view, you can have your own private roof cabana.
Yeah, that's a wonderful alternative. So there's a half dozen that are individual, what are they, 20 feet wide or so?
It's about 20 feet wide and by 35 feet deep, something like that.
And then there's another 4 on the 4 corners of the buildings. And what about all the people that don't have the extra cash to buy a roof deck?
Well, for them, we build a 5,000-foot common deck so that they have their own, there's a roof deck, a sun deck for the whole building.
Everybody gets a chance.
Everybody can come up.
All right, it's not bad. I love the Tar Beach tag on the whole thing. What about the construction details?
Did you have any problems, any restrictions that you ran into when putting this whole thing together?
Obviously, the biggest concern is a life safety concern. And as you can see here, we have a railing surrounding the whole thing. It has to come up 42 inches above the finished surface. We had to do a little bit of work ahead of time to figure out where the pavers were going to come to make sure that the railing came up high enough. That's certainly always your biggest concern.
Right.
And then there are other life safety concerns. Fire is a concern. There's actually a New York City building code provision that limits your combustible materials on a roof to 20% of the surface.
Oh.
So whereas we wanted to do the whole deck the whole roof in a wood deck, we were really limited to 20% wood. We looked at some of the plastic woods, but weren't crazy about that. We ended up with a combination of wood deck using the Ipe, which is actually the same deck they used on the Brooklyn Bridge walkway, with some concrete precast stone pavers, which gives a nice mix.
All right. Can we take a look at some areas that are close to finish?
Yeah.
Sure. So this would be the door into your own private cabana.
Yes.
And then once you're in here, you got total privacy except for anybody looking at you from the bridge across the way. So Jed, what's the materials that, tell us about the construction of all this.
Well, as you can see, we have a pressure-treated frame here. It's on a protective surface that separates it from the roof and lets it drain.
And the roof is a rubber membrane.
The roof is a single, double-ply rubber membrane.
Yeah, that's the same throughout.
Over insulation, that's the same throughout.
Yeah.
The roof pitches for drainage, and then we tried to level off the Ipe deck here.
The Ipe deck. Now, this is a Brazilian hardwood that is renewable, and it's not damaging any of the great rainforest
That's exactly right.
areas. Right.
That's exactly right.
But it's
Very
difficult
durable.
to work with, isn't it?
Difficult to work with. The mechanics are not so happy. It's almost as hard as the steel frame that we have here holding all this together.
Yeah, so behind you, Chris, it's the same stuff. It's I pay for the privacy.
Right.
And then half of the space is kind of roofed over. What's the construction up there?
This is a galvanized steel joist, just with a corrugated sheeting over it, a little bit of overlap, all just screwed together with stainless steel fasteners. And it's a nice combination. It gives you a little bit of shade, and also you have a sunny area out on the
What
deck.
amenities do you get? I notice you've got a water line up here.
We bring water, phone, and power, and provide a little bit of light.
Okay.
No gas.
You can't cook up here.
I guess with a little electric or
Yeah.
charcoal grill.
And then on the other side, you've got a concrete paver system that I've actually never used this installation before. It looks like rigid foam insulation, right?
Rigid foam insulation, again, that gets it up off the roof, protects it, and provides some structural integrity.
Okay. And anytime you have to lift one up, you lift it right up.
Lift it right
Let's
up.
walk
and
on
repair
it,
the
huh?
roof If you have to.
Now, David, you've been out here in Dumbo for how many years?
25 years.
25 years. So 25 years ago, what was it like?
It was really a wasteland. It was an underutilized, partially vacant industrial neighborhood that had been bypassed, really. But the views were here, the buildings were here, and we fell in love.
Yeah. And we're in the Sweeney Building, but that one right behind us is the first one that you turned into a condo, right?
That's called the Clock Tower. We call it the Walentis Building. I put my name on it. We converted that to residential condominiums 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Sold them out, and that really changed the neighborhood.
And there's still a lot more square footage here to develop, right?
There is. We have about 2.5 million square feet.
Gentlemen, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, we're up on the 3rd floor with Keith Elmore, who's kind of running the demolition aspects of the job right now. And Keith, how many guys have you got working on things here?
I got 3 guys here and 3 guys upstairs.
All right. So obviously demolition has to start and go from the top of the job down to the bottom.
Yes, sir.
Gravity comes into play.
Yes.
And will all of the flooring be ripped off here?
Yeah, all this top floor is coming up.
Yeah. But the structural system is in pretty good condition throughout.
Yeah, the beams is pretty good.
Yeah.
The joist is pretty good.
Now, what happens over here with the elevator shaft?
Well, We're taking it down from top down. And we burned out the elevator car and the rails.
You mean you use the torches to remove
Yes.
the steel
Yes.
rails?
Yes.
Boy, you can look all the way down here. It's a relatively dangerous part of the job. And that is the pit down there where it looks to be full of water?
Yes, that's a pit.
Boy.
We fill it up with water so when we burn in the sparks.
Yeah. What about the structure overhead here? Now, is any of this being removed, these posts and
Yeah.
beams across
So
here?
we're removing just these posters here. We're keeping the ones in the back.
So the span is it's about 16 feet, but it's sufficient,
It's sufficient to hold
without
up.
these?
Yes.
Okay. And then all this flooring gets ripped out. Now we're on the top floor here so that we have the possibility of windows. And what's going to happen here in this opening?
We had a window here and a window back there, and we're gonna make these windows larger.
So we have to remove some of the
So I had to
brickwork
cut out
along
some
here.
of the brickwork.
Yeah. And most of this brick, even though we're not exactly sure about the age of the building, most of this brick is mid-19th century. And put together with lime mortar. And it comes apart pretty easily, doesn't
Pretty
it?
easy, yeah. Triple gun.
So let's look over here. So these square holes that are in the floor is where the chutes were from the machinery, right?
Yes.
Yeah, when we were here last week, we still had a lot of machinery from, I think it was a macaroni factory in the late 19th century. And there was also something to do with pepper at another point.
Seasonings and peppers and stuff like that.
Seasonings, yeah.
Yes.
So have you thrown all that stuff away?
Some is downstairs, the lower
good.
floors.
Yeah.
We saved some of it.
They're kind of neat-looking artifacts.
Yeah.
And you got rid of the partitions that were in place. Now,
Took rid of the partitions.
what do we do with this big blank brick wall here, Keith?
We're gonna cut into these walls, this wall right here, and we're gonna put one window, pretty much the size and bigger than the other one, right here.
Because we're high enough in the building that we don't have party walls. We don't have a building on the other side.
Yes.
So right here, we can have a window. What about these back windows over here?
We're gonna enlarge these back windows.
Even though it's kind of like just a tenement space,
Yes.
It does
For the
provide-
light, for light, yes.
yeah, it does provide daylight and ventilation. And then what happens up above?
We're gonna add another floor, and we're gonna put some structural steel up there.
Yeah, so there will have to be a little beefing up of the structure.
Yes.
All right, keep your hard hat on. See you later.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there's a lot of wondering about the history of this little building, and so last week we got together with architectural historian Bill Higgins to take a closer look. Now, Bill, when most people look at a building that's as dilapidated as this one, they think tear down. As an architectural historian, you're looking at a tapestry that's telling you the story of where this building's been.
I'm looking at a story with a number of chapters that probably stretch over 160 or 170 years.
Yeah.
From the time when this building started as a three-story residence to its gradual change to warehouse and commercial and manufacturing use.
Now,
It grew by a story.
Really, tell us about what it looked like when it was a residence in maybe 1830 or 40.
When it was a residence, maybe about 1840, it was 3 stories high. It had these wonderful Federal period cast iron lintels that you see on the second and third
So the
floors.
decorative elements above the windows are a tip-off that it was residential and that it was of that
Yes.
period.
Yes, they
And
are.
how do you know that it was added onto with an additional floor up top?
If you look at that top floor and look at 2 things, look at the brickwork and look at the lintels. That wonderful decorative character of the lintels on the second and third floor changes to those very simple flat brick lintels.
Right.
And the quality of the brickwork changes. The brick itself on the top floor becomes a bit cruder. The joints, the mortar joints, become wider and less regular than they are on the second and third floors. It's just a different character and quality of construction.
And what about at the street level? Let's go a little bit closer and look at what's there. Now, is this brownstone?
This is brownstone, probably quarried in Connecticut, tip off to a date of probably about 1840 or so
Okay.
for this building.
And what happened here? Was there a set of steps or something?
It's possible that there were a set of steps. When this was a house, it would have had steps, a stoop, maybe on this bay, maybe on the other bay.
Right.
Would have been a brick building. Here's the original brick with its original mortar joints. Very nice quality, fine brick, very fine mortar joints. basement would have been faced in the brownstone.
And this is tooling on the brownstone, right?
Hand tooling on the brownstone, which gives it its flat surface, but also gives it a decorative quality that is part of the original architecture.
So when the residence was converted to commercial use, they ripped everything apart, but they reused some of the material that was here.
For the benefit of us future archaeologists, they kept this one corner intact.
Yeah.
Everything else would have come off, but as you can see, they salvaged pieces of it. And
stuck it
then
in
once they'd reconfigured it to its commercial configuration, they then put pieces of it back, sometimes in a kind of accidental configuration,
Sure.
reused it.
Let's go inside and look at some of the party wall masonry. So I'm not sure where to begin because everything is exposed, but what do you see here, for example?
What I see here is an original party wall, brick party wall here, with a wood nailer typical of the period.
That would have been used for furring strips and later lath and plaster.
Meant to accept the framing of a later lath and plaster wall.
Okay.
But
what about this? Look at all
yes,
that.
what I also see is evidence of an earlier period. Remember that when this building was built, it's the earliest thing surviving on the block, and there was not a building next door to it. So there was an exposed wall which had a window.
You had views of the East River from here.
That's right.
Fabulous. And what about on that side?
Here again we have an original brick party wall. We have a much more extensive length of these wood nailers in place. You can see there's also one at the bottom which was meant to accept a baseboard. More evidence that this had at least a partially residential character originally.
And the way the structure, the wooden aspects of it are married to the masonry and throughout here, it's pretty sophisticated.
It is quite sophisticated, and it's also very strong. This from the very beginning was meant to bear a lot of weight.
So it's not necessarily a frame for a residence, but
That's right. Our suspicion is that there was a kind of mixed function here. Remember, the person who built this house, Mr. Birkbeck, also owned and operated an iron foundry right next door. So this may well have served only a quasi-residential function, and there may have been offices, counting house.
So you've already done
ancillary
some of the
use.
documentary research on the property through archives. You know who built it and so forth.
We've done some. We need to do more, and then we'll put the pieces of the puzzle of the physical evidence together with the documentary evidence and see if we have a complete story or not.
Yeah. Go over there and look at the lintel in this former window opening from the side. Does it look like it's an old hand-hewn piece of timber?
It actually looks like it's a combination of hand-hewn but also sawn. Sawn with a relatively early saw, though, rather than a mechanical circular saw.
Right.
What we're also seeing here is further evidence that this building was open to the light on this side as well. We're seeing evidence that that was infilled, but that it was infilled at a pretty early date because we have mortar here that I can scratch out with my finger. It's lime mortar.
Yeah.
So this was infilled fairly early. We have another chapter on top of this, though, or rather below this, because if you look here, you can see that there is an earlier generation of infilled window. I wish I had a nice tidy conclusion for this, but at this point I don't. And sometimes the fascination of this is just the mystery.
The detective work, too.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Bill. And we're out of time. Come home again next week to Dumbo in Brooklyn, New York. Till then, I'm Bob Vila. It's good to have you home again. Visit BobVila.com for everything you need to get the job done right. You'll find Home Again highlights, interactive tools for planning your next project, and helpful how-to articles for every room in your home. BobVila.com, the ultimate home site.